الورقة الثالثة تتبع التهديدات الرئيسية للمملكة المتحدة، وسيتم تقديمها من قبل السيدة هانا شيرلي والسيد جيرمي كلارك. السيدة هانا شيرلي عملت لدى حكومة المملكة المتحدة خلال 11 عام الماضية، وشغلت عدة مناصب في وزارة الداخلية، وخلال 5 أعوام الماضية تولت مسؤولية إدارة التحقيقات الجنائية والمالية في مكتب لندن والجنوب الشرقي، ويتولى هذا المكتب مسؤولية تتبع جرائم الهجرة المنظمة. والسيد المفتش جيرمي كلارك عمل كمفتش في الشرطة في دائرة شرطة العاصمة وشرطة النقل البريطانية، وخلال ال3 سنوات الماضية عمل كضابط ومفتش جنائي أول في إدارة التحقيقات الجنائية والمالية في وزارة الداخلية، والذي يتتبع جرائم الهجرة المنظمة. تفضلوا 15 دقيقة 15 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Firstly, let me extend my warmest and heartfelt thanks for inviting my colleague and I to the first International Symposium on Land and Maritime Border Security and Safety. It is a great honour to be here and to be given this opportunity to present to you at such a prestigious event, especially in such beautiful and glamorous surroundings. Well, where do we start with the UK? In the UK, we do not have pirates or deserts or enormous borders to protect, such as Saudi Arabia. But what we do have is other challenges, such as the myth or fairy tale that the streets in London are paved with gold, and this in turn attracts a lot of migrants wanting to come to the UK, which allows organised criminal gangs to target the vulnerable, the weak, and of course, economic migrants in order to travel and gain a legal entry to the UK. There are many agencies in the UK that protect our border and our citizens from terrorism, cybercrime, narcotics, child sexual exploitation, human trafficking, and of course, immigration crime. These include the National Crime Agency that primarily focuses on drugs, cybercrime and modern-day slavery, as well as the Foreign and Commonwealth Office that promotes and protects the UK's interests overseas. Within the Home Office, we have 5 different departments, including Border Force, which processes approximately 129.9 million passengers through its borders every year. 9.3 million of these visitors, Saudi Arabia being in the top 3 for visitor visa applications to the UK. We also have the UK Visas and Immigration that deals with all visa applications in country and abroad. We have Her Majesty's Passport Office, which issues identity documents, Office for Security and Counter-Terrorism that deals with terror-related offences, and the department where I work, which is the criminal and financial investigations within immigration enforcement. So why do we exist, criminal and financial investigations? The answer is simple. We exist to tackle the threats associated with immigration offending, such as illegal working, terrorism, money laundering, organised criminality, as well as your high-harm individuals. There is, of course, always the threat of terrorists being able to cross the border undetected. But as already mentioned, some individuals are merely economic migrants that organised criminal gangs target, putting their lives at risk in order to transport them to the UK. In addition to the risk to life, you also have the cost to UK PLC itself, which is astronomical. If you think of it in terms of strain and cost to our healthcare system, benefits that individuals collect that they aren't legally entitled to, places taken at British schools, illegal workings, so no tax being paid, and so on. Criminal and financial investigations have 25 offices nationally and approximately 490 staff of which around 370 of them are criminal investigators and a further 40 trained as financial investigators. So as you can appreciate, we are a relatively small department. We recruit and train people to a high standard that is recognised nationally in order to retain people, for them to execute their duties professionally, as well as provide a 24-hour response and on-call capability. We have various covert assets, which include specialist imagery equipment and surveillance capability. A full list can be found within the paper. This year alone, we have disrupted 249 organised criminal groups, arrested 974 individuals, convicted 577 suspects, resulting in over 926 years in prison sentences, restrained £6 million worth in assets, and seized 1.4 million in cash. We have a very clear message for organised criminal groups, and that is, we will work tirelessly to disrupt and dismantle your way of life, including taking away your freedom, as well as stripping you of your assets, including your home in the UK and abroad, your money, your businesses, and any other tangible asset, in order to protect the UK as a whole and those who suffer at your hands. At the present time, we have approximately 736 live investigations, which could include any type of immigration crime, including, but not exclusively, the production of false documentation, a massive issue in Europe, the dismantlement of forgery factories, sham marriages, individuals seeking to obtain leave to remain by deception, corrupt solicitor firms, imposters, facilitation, or more commonly known as smuggling, by air, land and sea, illegal working, and of course human trafficking, whether it's for sexual exploitation, domestic servitude, or general workers kept in horrendous conditions without pay. These can be split into 5 key threats: facilitation of illegal migration by air, people coming by plane and either disposing of their documents, claiming asylum at the port, or using fake or genuine documents to try to get through the border. Clandestine people smuggling, normally in the backs of lorries, vans and cars, but also by boat in shipping containers. Document production and abuse, such as obtaining financial benefits in multiple identities. Abuse of a legitimate entry and leave to remain, such as obtaining a genuine student visa and then never actually studying in the UK. And the 5th one being modern-day slavery offences, which comprises of trafficking individuals, including children, to the UK in order to work in brothels, cannabis farms, nail bars and on travellers' sites. There are various differences between us and our foreign partners, such as our French and Belgian counterparts, who we work closely with, which I don't actually have time to go into now. What I will say is that we continually sign bilateral and joint investigation agreements at Europol and in The Hague in order to ensure all partners are signed up to an agreement to tackle, apprehend and dismantle organised crime groups, prosecuting suspects in whichever country is deemed most appropriate. This has allowed us to share intelligence, evidence, as well as carry out joint surveillance in order to crack gangs behind human smuggling. It also allows us, like in this forum, to share experiences, knowledge, and legislation in order to increase our effectiveness of working together. We are very keen and very aware that working with our foreign partners is essential, as the UK is one of the most desired destination countries for migrants, and we are aware that not working in partnership could bring disastrous consequences for us all. I'm now going to pass you over to my colleague, Detective Inspector Jeremy Clark, who will describe 2 case studies to you, including one that actually has a lot of people confused, as it involves individuals being smuggled out of the UK rather than the rule of people being smuggled in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I also thank the Chair and the Vice Admiral for kindly inviting me to continue this presentation. Illegal immigration is currently very topical, and as we can see from behind us, newsworthy in the United Kingdom. And this attracts unwarranted attention from the news media. This takes the form of them mounting their own investigations purely to generate stories for print and TV. This creates problems for law enforcement as they are not constrained by legislation or the Human Rights Act, and we have to pick up the pieces and attempt to mount a prosecution if appropriate. In April 2015, 2 undercover journalists working for a newspaper met with a prolific people smuggler in his office in London. They peddled the story that they wanted to illegally escape the UK, as one was a terrorist who wanted to fight in Syria and the other was a criminal fleeing justice. They agreed fees and a travel date, and this was highly organised and was described as just like visiting a travel agency to organise a holiday. The OCG head boasted that they ran illegal immigrants between the UK and France in lorries twice a week, on Mondays and Fridays, and were never caught. They could also, for a higher fee, move non-EU illegal migrants to any country in Europe undetected. A few days later, as arranged, the undercover journalist met with other members of the organised criminal group, are transported to a safe house prior to being taken to the lorry. About now, the media organisation contacted law enforcement and stated what they were doing, that they were doing a story on the organised criminal group moving terrorists from the UK to France through Dover port. They provided no further information, nor would they cease the operation when this was requested. Dover Port is the busiest transit seaport for lorries and cars in and out of the UK, and is the gateway to the whole of the EU. Because of the perceived terrorist threat, we deployed significant resources and intercepted the lorry with 19 clandestines and the 2 undercover journalists, and arrested the lorry driver. The investigation. We realised we had to act quickly to identify the organised criminal group, as it was anticipated that they may try to flee or hide. We met with the editor of the paper and obtained their evidence. Luckily, he did not require a court order. We debriefed the 19 clandestines, interviewed the driver, and interviewed the undercover journalist, collected CCTV, downloaded and obtained billings on all phones seized, and circulated the first organised criminal group member within 12 hours. And he was arrested the following day, boarding a plane at Heathrow, bound for Abu Dhabi. Over the next 6 months, we executed home address searches and developed intelligence and managed to arrest a further 8 members of the organised criminal group. The intelligence developed indicated that the OCG had been undertaking the 2 lorry trips each week for over 6 months undetected. All were charged and committed to trial. And this was the largest trial the Home Office Criminal and Financial Investigation Department has ever prosecuted. It took 4 trials over 6 months, and 9 out of the 10 were convicted. This picture slide I have up on the screen, top right-hand corner, this is all taken from the undercover journalist's video. Abdul Ghaffar is the top left, who is the main man who was organising and met with the journalists. To the bottom left, we have Shamin Mir, who was a safe house keeper. And the bottom 2 gentlemen in the black jacket and the beige jacket, they are organised part of the criminal group, and they were briefing the clandestines in the safe house. This shows 4 slides. The top left-hand slide is the migrants being taken from the safe house to the lorry park, where they were loaded onto the lorry. The bottom left one is being loaded physically onto the lorry. The top right one is the journey to Dover, and the bottom right one is the lorry having been stopped at Dover. Key factors is the ability to work in partnership with international partners. These criminals broke French law as they had crossed into France, but they were in fact prosecuted in the UK. Principal suspects. As can be seen, Abdul Ghaffar and Shamin Mir, the main organisers, received significant sentences. Financial investigation established that the wife of Shamin Mir had over £1.25 million, or $1.75 million, through her account in 2015, and she had no work. The taxi drivers who conducted the clandestines to the safe house and to the lorry park, they also received sentences of imprisonment, despite being of previous good character. These were some of the longest sentences seen in the UK, and now demonstrate how seriously Her Majesty's Government and the UK judiciary take the threat illegal immigration poses to the security of the UK and its citizens.
2 minutes. I'll finish.
Sorry?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, thank you. Okay, moving on to the second case study, Operation Monks. This case, we have seen behind us some of the video, helicopter footage, which referred to our department late one Saturday night. It involved a rib being rescued from the English Channel by Border Force cutter in cooperation with the Royal National Lifeboat Institution and Coast Guard. In the boat were 2 facilitators and 18 non-EU nationals, clandestines. The boat had been identified by French radar leaving the French coastline and travelling towards the UK. The boat had run out of petrol mid-channel and was in serious peril in the busy shipping lane. The smugglers had not taken into account the extra petrol the boat would require, despite having done a previous dry run. The investigating strategy: collecting CCTV for some surrounding area, collecting the helicopter footage, collecting statements, etc., etc. I'll move on. The picture slide. The picture slide shows suspects and the clandestines in the boat. If you note the disregard of the safety of the clandestines, as only the suspects had life jackets. The suspects threatened to push the illegals over the side if they spoke to the authorities. The story made all the national newspapers and news channels because of the fear they could have drowned and the bodies washed up on the beach like we have so often seen in the media today. The suspects were sentenced to 4 years 8 months and 4 years 4 months for this one run. May I again express mine and my colleagues' thanks for listening to our presentation in support of this excellent symposium. Shukran.